This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so Parshat Vayishlach, page 170 in our stone Chumash. Parshat Vayishlach is really the culmination of this Jacob Esav saga. And as we've discussed, it's a troubling saga. You know, we look to the Torah as our moral inspiration, guidance. And we know each of the patriarchs have their midah, their attributes, what they're all about. And Avraham is chesed, kindness, and we're so comfortable. We embrace that. Avraham, our weddings always have the canopy open on all four sides, like the tent of Abraham and Sarah, open to all, chesed, kindness, love, embracing. We're all in when it comes to Avraham. Yitzchak, Isaac, his midah is gevura, is strength, right? Not overpowering, overwhelming others. We always say the greatest strength is hakovish et Yisroel, one who can control oneself. And it was in Yitzchak's strength, power, in his ability to go to the Akedah. And even though he was, according to one interpretation, he was a man of 37 years old, he easily could have overwhelmed his 137-year-old father. But he had that gevura, that self-constraint, that self-control to accept this is the will of God and I'm going along with it. Yitzchak, gevura, we're good. Yaakov, Jacob, emet, truth. And we struggle with that a little bit. Yaakov's truth, well, the brachot were all through deception. And we explained, yes, but he really was Esav. When he said, I am Esav, your firstborn. I am, pause, Esav, your firstborn. But he really was Esav. He brought the bracha. Yeah. We have many ways of approaching it. But I think we're still left with a little bit sense of discomfort. And there's explanation that Avram needed to overcome his innate kindness in order to do the will of God, which was the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. And so there are those that explain that Yaakov needed to overcome his innate attribute of emet to use this deception once his mother told him that she had her prophecy and this was the will of God. But still, it doesn't sit all fully comfortably with us. So I like to give another approach to it. And we're going to unpack Yaakov's reuniting with Esav over here. Yaakov's been away now for 20 years, 7 years in order to marry Rachel. Instead, he was given Leah. 7 days later, he was given Rachel in order that he'd work another 7 years. At the end of 14 years, he said, I want to go. Lavan said, well, why don't you work for me? And he worked for him for another 6 years and became very wealthy. And now it's enough. 20 years in the house of Lavan. And he's already seeing, the Bali Musar says that he said that the face of Lavan doesn't look the same way it used to. So the simple understanding is, yeah, Lavan used to be very, very friendly. Now Lavan's getting hostile. He's upset. He's angry. He feels that I became wealthy off of him. But the Bali Musar, the ethicists say, the face of Lavan doesn't look the same anymore. I used to look at him and I saw this was a Lavan, this was a cheat, this was a swindler. Now I look at him, I say, hey, he's a good guy. And therefore it must be, I've been too influenced by the surroundings. Time for me to go, the Bali Musar say. Whatever the case is, Yaakov and his children in tow are now going back. He wants to go back home. And he wants to encounter Esav. He wants to get past this Jacob Esav conflict. He wants to get past it. And therefore, what does he do? On page 170, Parsha Vayishlach begins, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim. He sent messengers, angels in front of him. El Esav Achiv. Who's he sending it to? Esav, Achiv, his brother. He wants to get the brotherhood back again. And he commands them, saying, Ko Tomrun, this is what you shall say, Ladoni, to my master Esav. Interesting. Ko Amar Avdecha Yaakov. This is what is said by your servant Jacob. Let's remember the brachot, the blessing that he received that was meant for Esav, that he got was, you will be a gevir, you will be the master over your brother. He's referring to, and he tells these servants, these messengers that he's sending, this is what you should say to my master Esav. These are the words of your servant Jacob. In Lavan Garti, I've lived with Lavan, and I've been there until now, and I have Shor Chamor, and I'm sending to find favor in the eyes of you, my master. A very, very conciliatory message that he's sending. The messengers come back to Jacob and they say, Banu el achicha el Esav. Whoa, our ears perk up on that. We came to your brother, to Esav. Why do you say we came to your brother Esav? Why we came to your brother, to Esav? Why that redundancy? To. And Chazal Rashi brings, our sages point out, their message was, we came to the one that you referred to as your brother. But that's not what we found. We came to your brother. You sent us to your brother. We came to your brother, but that's not who we found. Rather, what we come to? To, the extra to Esav. He's not coming as a brother. He's coming as Esav. Not only that, V'arba meot ish imo. He's got 400 guys he's bringing with him. Right? And these were not the choir boys. Okay? This was a tough group. He's got his Hell's Angels are all revving their motors as they're coming behind him over there. Vayira Yaakov Ma'od, page 172, Pasuk Chet, Lamed Bet Chet. Yaakov got very frightened. Vayetzer lo, and he was very distressed. He's trying to reconcile. And it doesn't sound like he's got Esav looking to reconcile also. And he splits the camp into two. And he says, if there'll be a battle, one will fight, the other one will escape. And then Pasuk Yudin, he davens. He prays to God, the God of my father Avram, God of Yitzchak, the one who said to me, come back to your land and I'll be good to you. He said, I'm scared. Why am I scared? God said, I'll take care of you. You know why? Yud Aleph 11. Katonti mikol chasadim. Granted, God, you said you bring me back, but you've given me so much. You've been so good to me. You've given me so much. Katonti, I've become small. I've become diminished. I'm no longer worthy. I don't feel I'm any longer worthy for that guarantee that you gave me. And therefore, Hatzileni na miyad achi, miyad Esav, save me from my brother, save me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esav. I'm afraid he's going to come and kill me. And then what does he do? Pasuk Tetvav, 15, 16, 17. And he took from that which he had, and he sent a gift to Esav. What did he send? Let's see this in English. 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats. 200 ewes and 20 rams. 30 nursing camels with their colts. 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 she-donkeys, 10 he-donkeys. What he's sending is not just a gift. This is an enterprise. It's males, it's females. It's a way of constantly not just getting a gift, but then generating wealth, reproducing. And he put his servants in charge and said, pass ahead of me, leave a space between each group, between each flock. And when my brother Esav meets you and asks you, right, what is all this? You should say, it's your servant Jacob's. And behold, he's coming after us. And he told the second group, that's what you should say. And the third group, that's what you should say. He's getting ready for this epic encounter with Esav. And Ramban, other commentaries point out, Masa avot simmer lebanim, that which happens to the patriarchs, that is a template of what will be with the children, with the descendants, with us. And therefore, when we encounter in Esav, when we encounter those who are coming up against us, there are three things that we do in order to try to come out unscathed from that encounter. Number one, we davening. We pray to Hashem. Number two, we try to placate, send gifts. Number three, prepare for battle. These are the three ways that Jacob got ready for his encounter with Esav, and this is Masa Avot Simon Lebanim. That's what we also need to do, right? We extend our hand in peace. We have the Abraham Accords. We have peace, a very cold peace with Jordan, with Egypt. We have the Abraham Accords, hopefully much warmer peace with UAE, with Bahrain, with Sudan, and hopefully with other countries. And we'd love to also come to an agreement with the Palestinians that would make sense and maintain our security. But at the same time, we're ready for war when we need to. And Shilam Alos, Ciner, and we dive into Hashem, recognizing that that's where our true strength is. Now, before his encounter with Esav, there is a strange encounter, which we're not going to focus on this year, because it will take us the full time if we focus on this. But very briefly, what do we have over here? Jacob was left alone. On page 175, 174, 175, Pasuk Chav Hey, verse 25. They crossed over a river on their way to this encounter with Esav. Vayivater Yaakov levado v'avek ish imo ad alot hashachar. Yaakov was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. Okay, right now he's referred to as a man, but we're going to soon see that he's clearly more than just a man. When he saw that he could not overcome him, that he cannot overwhelm Jacob, he struck the socket, the joint, the socket of his hip, and it became dislocated, as he wrestled with him. Okay? And he said, 176, 177, Shalcheni, send me now, let me go. Ki Allah Shachar, because it's the morning. Right? Also, this guy is like this. Is he the wicked witch of the West? He's going to melt, right? What's going on? Oh, because it's morning now. I've got to go. Vayomer, and he said, Lo ashalecha, I will not send you away ki im beirachtani, unless you give me a blessing. So we see clearly again, this is not at this point. You see clearly this is not just any old ish. This is an angel, according to our sages, who came represented as an ish, and our sages say this was the angel of Esav, the ministering angel of Esav and his nation. And he said, I want a blessing. Vayomer elav, and he said to him, Ma shemecha, what is your name? Vayomer Yaakov, and he answered, my name is Yaakov. Vayomer, and this angel, this Ish, said, Lo Yaakov yemar od shimcha. Your name will no longer be Jacob, Yaakov, rather Ki'im, Yisroel. Your name will be Yisroel. Why? Ki sarita im Elokim ve'im anashim vatuchal. Because you have contended, you've striven with the divine, meaning himself, this angel. Ve'im anashim, and you've contended with men. Esav, Lavan, vatuchal, and you have overcome. Okay. So again, without getting too much into this episode, but there's something here that should ring a bell, that should strike us. He said to him, Ma shemecha, what is your name? Keep the place here, and then move back to, because we're going to go up and back a lot, to the brachot on page 136. This is when Yaakov comes in to receive the blessings that were intended for Esav. Verse 24, Vayomer, and he said, Atazeh b'ni Esav? Are you, wait, sorry. Verse 18. Verse 19. Vayomer Yaakov el Aviv. Yaakov said to his father, Anochi, it is I. Esav b'chorecha. It is I, Esav, your firstborn. I've done all that you asked me to do, right? And again, we explained, we could pause it. Anochi, pause. I am who I am. Esav v'chorecha. Esav is your firstborn. So Rashi explains it. It wasn't an outright lie. Others say, I am Esav your Bechor. I have replaced Esav your Bechor. I've bought the Bechor. I've bought the birthright. So therefore, for all intents and purposes, I am Esav your firstborn. Okay. But he is impersonating Esav. Further down, verse 24, Vayomer, Isaac speaks, Yitzchak says, Atazeh b'ni Esav. Are you my son Esav? Vayomer, and he answered, Ani, I am. Once again, Rashi, he didn't say, I'm Esav. I am who I am. But again, it's a little bit uncomfortable. And then he gives him the brachot, the blessings, on 138. And we will return to the blessings shortly. But still on 138, moving down there, Esav comes in afterwards, right? And Isaac trembles. What happened over here? Esav lets out a big, big cry and says, bless me also. The bottom line there, Lamed Vav. That's why they named him Yaakov. Yaakov is Akev. It's the heel, it's a twist. Vayakveni zeh pa'amayim. He has tricked me twice. So according to the sages, twice? What was the first time? The first time was that he bought the Bechor from you. Then he deserved the blessing. Fair enough. But Yaakov has, in the name Yaakov, we have this idea of he came out holding on to Esav's heel. He wanted to be someone else. He wanted that which belonged to someone else. Vayakveni zeh pa'amayim. and he has tricked me twice. Just 1 second. Look back at 126 for a moment. That's when Jacob and Esav are born. The first one came out red, like a hairy mantle. Vayikra'u shemo Esav. They called him Esav. Who's they? Presumably, who's they? Both parents. 26, afterwards, his brother came out, and his hand was holding on to the heel of Esav. Vayikra shemo Yaakov. Not they called him Yaakov, and he called him Yaakov. Who's he? Yitzchak called him Yaakov. Seems Rivka was not part of calling him Yaakov. Yaakov is holding on to someone else, schlepping along, trying to be someone else. And we see he denied who he was. Who did he want to be? Anichi. He bought the Bechorah. He wanted to be Esav. He presented himself as Esav. He claimed he's Esav. Now at this point in his life, going back to where we are, keep 138. We can go up and back there. But at this point in his life, in 176, the angel says to him, Ma Shemecha, what is your name? And what does he say? Yaakov. My name is Jacob. This is all part of this reconciliation. This is all part of the coming to terms. It's not, I am, Esav is your firstborn. I am who I am. No. My name is Yaakov. All of the issues of the past, I'm past that. I might have stumbled, I might have tripped. I'm beyond that now. Who am I? I'm proudly Yaakov. I'm not holding on to anyone's heel. I'm not presenting myself as Esav. Who am I? I am Yaakov. This angel says to him, if that's the case, yes, you will go from Yaakov to Yisroel. Yaakov, which connotes this grabbing onto, holding onto, you will now be called Yisroel. Why? Well, first of all, Yisroel, Yud, Shin, Resh, spells out Yashar. What does Yashar mean? Straight, good, honest, Yashar. Who better than Yashar? He's a good, straight, honest person. And you have struggled and you have overcome. We always say we're all works in progress. We're called Yisroel because we struggle. We're not called Vatuchal. We're not called Amtuchal, the nation of overcoming. We're the nation of struggling. We struggle. And that is how we become greater. It's only through the struggles. So in this encounter with the Sar of Esav, what happens is Yaakov comes to terms. I am Yaakov. Once you come to terms with who you are, and you're not trying to be someone else, that's when you will not become someone else, but you yourself can go through a transformation and make yourself a that much improved and better version of yourself. Not someone else, but a better you. Vayomer Yaakov. He said, my name is Yaakov. Full disclosure. I'm leaving everything else behind. Okay. Let's go now. We're still on 176. And let's see what happens. Vayisa Yaakov, chapter 33, verse 1. Yaakov lifted up his eyes. Vayar, and he saw V'hinei Esav ba. It doesn't say his brother is coming. It doesn't say his brother Esav or Esav his brother. Who is coming? Esav. If that's how the Torah, is describing him, it means he is coming as full throttle Esav. There's no hint of brotherhood in this approach. V'imo arba me'ot ish, and 400 men with him. And what does he do? Vayachatz et hayeladim al Leah val Rachel, and he splits up the children to be by Leah and Rachel, and by the two shvachot and the two maidservant wives. And he placed the maidservants and their children first, Bilhah and Zilpah, with Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher first. That Leah, v'yiladei achronim, and Leah and her children afterwards. That Rachel, that Yosef achronim, and Rachel and Yosef, right? Benjamin was not yet born, in the back. V'hu avar lifneihem, and he went to the very, very front. Vayishtachu arza, and he bowed down to the ground. Sheva pamim, 7 times. Ad gishto ad achiv, until he had drawn close to who? Not to Esav, not to Esav his brother, not his brother Esav, but until his brother. The Torah described Esav as simply Esav, that's who was coming. But how is Yaakov approaching him? Ad achiv, up until his brother. Vayaratz Esav likrato. Esav ran to greet him. Vayichabekehu, and he hugged him. Vayipol al tzavarav, and he fell onto his neck. Vayishakehu, and he kissed him. Vayivku, and they cried. 178, 179, Pasuk, and he lifted up his eyes, and he saw the wives, and he saw the children, and he said, "Who are these to you?" And he said, "These are the children that God has given to your servant." And then this maidservants came forward and they bowed down. And Leah and her children came forward and they bowed down. And then Yosef and Rachel came and they bowed down. And he said, "What's with this whole camp? All these flocks that I met?" And he said, it was to find favor in the eyes of my master. Let's look at this encounter. Esav is coming with 400 men, and then it gets turned around. So how do we understand this? Oh, it was a great bribe. He smeared him. And therefore Esav was unable to control because the bribe blinded him. Let's not look at it that way. Let's look at it in a different manner. Keeping the place over here, let's look back to the brachot that Yaakov received from Yitzchak, that Yaakov took from Yitzchak. Back on page 138. V'yitain lecha ha'elokim, God should give to you from the dew of the heaven and the fat of the earth, and an abundance of dagan, v'tirosh, of grain and wine. The first part of the blessing was an abundance of material wealth. What does Yaakov send to Esav? An abundance of material wealth. Yaakov can't give the dews of the heaven and the fat of the earth. That's what God can give. But I can give what I have. And we said before, it wasn't just a gift. It was the males and the females. It was a whole enterprise. that he gave over here. The ability to be wealthy and to generate continuous wealth. Next thing, Yavducha Amim. V'ishtachavu l'cha lu'umim. Have a gvir la'achecha. You will be a master over your brother. How does Yaakov present to Esav? I, your servant. You are my master. And what does he do? He bows down to him repeatedly. Nations will bow down to you. Not only does Jacob bow down, who else bows down? The whole nation, meaning his wives, their children, the tribes. They're all bowing down to him. What is Yaakov? And we'll soon see wording that is powerful. What is Yaakov basically doing here? The brachot are yours. The brachot are yours. Is he completely giving back the brachot? Listen, God gives the brachot. Right? I can say, oh, not compare myself to Isaac. Yisroel said, God should give you. Ultimately, who gives the brachot? God gives the brachot. To whom and to what degree and how he chooses to give it. So Yaakov is saying, I'm Yaakov. No more pretense, no more deception. All the things that Father blessed to me, I am returning it to you. It's yours. I'm not Yaakov. I'm not trying to grab onto your heel. I'm not trying to impersonate you. Now, come back to 178. Verse 9. Vayomer Esav. Esav said, Yesh li rav. I've got a lot. I've got much. Achi. He refers to him now as his brother, my brother. Yehi lecha asher lach. What's yours? Let it be yours. Vayomer Yaakov, al na, please know. Imna matzati chen beinecha, if I found favor in your eyes, v'lakachti minchati miyadi, v'lakachta minchati miyadi. Take my gift, minchati is my gift, my offering from my hand. Ki akein re'iti b'necha b'nei Elokim, seeing your face and having this reconciliation is like seeing the divine, Vatirtzeni, when you are appeased. What did he call the gift in verse 10? Minchati. The English doesn't have the same thing. Verse 10, accept my tribute, minchati. Verse 11, kach na et birchati. What did he say over here? Take now my bracha. Bracha can mean gift, but what does bracha certainly mean in the context? Blessing. Kach na et birchati asher huvat lach. Take now the blessing, the gift, but the blessing that I've brought to you. Ki chanani Elokim. God has been gracious to me. V'chi yesh li chol. And I've got everything. So what is Yaakov doing here? He seems to be coming clean. This blessing is yours. Kach na et birchati. Take now this blessing, my blessing that was given to me. Take now the blessing. Now, if we'll look back again, one page earlier, 136, we see lots of terms that are repeated. Where did Yaakov place the garments of Esav so he would feel and appear hairier? He put it onto his hands and onto his neck. And then what do we find? A term that we don't hear so often. Chaf Aleph 21. Yitzchak said to Yaakov, Geshana, draw close. 22. Vayigash Yaakov el Yitzchak. Yaakov drew close to Yitzchak. 26. Draw close, Ushkali bini, and kiss me, my son. So we have these terms of gisha, of drawing close. We have these terms of giving to drink. And we have the hug. We have neck. Let's look back to 176, to this encounter. Verse 3, and he passed in front of them, and he bowed down 7 times, ad gishto, gishto is vayigash, until he had drawn close to his brother, before he drew close to his father in order to deceive. Now he drew close in order to reconcile. Esav ran to him, and he hugged him. Vayipol al tzavarav, and fell onto his neck. Vayishakehu, and he kissed him. Vayivku, and they cried. Remember before, Esav cried when he realized the brach had been taken from him. We discussed last week, Yaakov cried when he encountered Rachel by the well and realized that he would not be buried with her. They each had their cries over the pain that was caused by the separation, by the deception. And now we have Vayivku. Now they're crying together. But it's not cries of pain. Esav's painful cry of the blessing having been taken. Yaakov's painful cry of not being forever next to Rachel. But it is a cry of reconciliation. Now, interesting. Yaakov bowed until he drew close to his brother. Yaakov had to draw close to his brother where? Internally, in his heart. He needed to completely come to terms with Esav. No longer viewing him as the ruffian, as the one who's not deserving of that. He had to draw completely close to his brother. And he did. And that is when we were able to have this reconciliation that comes about. So perhaps we could look at Yaakov as an ish emes, as a man of truth, meaning the same way that we look at Yosef. And we'll soon come to the Yosef sagas in the next few weeks. And we see how Yosef developed. Yosef went through transformation. Yosef went from the one who would go running to his father, and anything negative that he would see by his brothers, he would relate to his father. He became the Yosef that never shared with his father what the brothers had done. how he had ended up in Egypt. He became as tight-lipped as could even be imagined. So the one who went from anything negative by the brothers, he ran to tell the father. He would not tell father what the brothers had done to him. He would not be the one to share it. Yosef went through a transformation. So maybe with Yaakov, we could look at it the same way. There are many people who say that a lot of these tzaddik books do a disservice to a degree as opposed to a service. Because I read about this amazing tzaddik. Great, wonderful. Then I read that he would make a bracha before he would nurse from his mother. Well, that's not me, right? So, and then I hear that when he was 7 years old, he knew all of these tractates by heart. So I read that, and that's not encouraging. That's actually deflating. Well, I certainly did not when I was 5 or 7, or 15 or 17 for that matter. So do I have no choice? Do I have no chance of becoming a great person? It can be considered to be deflating. When we hear about how great a person was, we don't hear about the struggles along the way. Did the Chavetz Chaim ever speak Lashon Hara? No, the Chavetz Chaim never spoke Lashon Hara. Of course he had to speak in Lashon Hara. He could never have been so great and reached the point of never speaking Lashon Hara unless there had been struggles along the way. And with struggles, there are always some downfalls. There's always some stumblings in a struggle. The angel struggled with Yaakov. This is a beautiful, powerful lesson that I've said many times before, and I'll say it many times again, because it's so powerful and so important. So this Ish who struggled with Jacob, he was an angel. An angel, malach, means a messenger of God. He's sent to do the mission of God. He's sent on God's mission. So if that's the case, when he's struggling with Jacob, how can he lose? How can he not fulfill God's mission? God sent him to struggle with Jacob. How could he lose the fight? God sent him into the ring. How could he lose the fight if he's an angel who does and always fulfills God's mission? So what's clear, I had the privilege of hearing from Rav Hillel Zaks Zatzal. So what's clear is his mission was to struggle and to fight and then to lose. That was the mission of this angel who was the angel of Esav, also known, AKA, also known as Yetzer Hara. So what is the mission of the Yetzer Hara, of all of our struggles in life? To push us and push us and push us and make us discover and utilize latent strength and ability that we have. And then we overcome. Their mission, the mission of the Yetzer Hara, the mission of the angel, is to push us and then to lose. Our problem is that we throw in the towel too early. Say, oh, all right, he's going to win. But the mission is to struggle. And Yaakov's name, after this struggle, he was told, later on God will change the name, but he was told your name will become Yisroel. Why? Because of the struggle. And it's the struggle that brings about transformation. Not assuming someone else's identity, not becoming someone else, but becoming a better version of me, of myself. Sometimes we could read over a report that was written about us when we were children, young children. And we read that report and we see, wow, that's me. The struggles that I had as a child, I still have those struggles. The difficulties that I had as a child, I still have those difficulties. But hopefully we can look at it and say, wow, but look what I've done with that, with those challenges and with those difficulties and with those hurdles. They're still me. That's me. That's who I am. But I've overcome so many of them. I've learned to deal with them in a positive way. That is the struggle of Yisroel, the name that was given. Yaakov means grabbing on, assuming someone else's identity. You're now Yisroel, but it's interesting. Avram was changed to Avraham. Abram became Abraham. Sarai became Sarah, became Sarah. Never again were they called Avram, only called Avraham. Never again was she called Sarai. She always was called Sarah. It's interesting. Some people have the name, some men have the name Avram, not Avraham. And someone once approached me and said, I don't want to be Avram. I want to be Avraham. Why should I be Avram? I want to be Avraham. I want to change my name. And I called Rabbi David Cohen, who is one of the great poskim of our generation. And I asked him, what should be done? And he said, his name is Avraham. I said, no, Rabbi. He was named Avram at his bris. The father made a mistake. No, he was named after someone whose name was Avram. They also made a mistake. Jews don't name Avram, he said. Jews name Avraham. But, right, in Europe, amongst many of the European languages, the Jew, right, it became Avram. Avrom is how they pronounced it. And he said people mistakenly thought, oh, the name is Avrom, as opposed to Avraham. But no, the name is Avram. Avraham. Avram is Avraham. So even though the father thought he named him Avram, named him after someone whose name was Avram, that person's name was Avraham, and his name is Avraham. He doesn't need to change his name. His name is Avraham. There's no more Avram. Yet, there still is Yaakov. Throughout the Torah, sometimes he's referred to as Yaakov, sometimes he's referred to as Yisroel. And we'll see in coming weeks, sometimes in the very same pasuk, or consecutive psukim, he's referred to as Yaakov and Yisroel. Why is that? And Or Chaim, other commentators explain, when he's feeling down, incapable, perhaps depressed, when Yosef is gone and he thinks Yosef is dead, he's Yaakov, 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 Yaakov. And then all of a sudden, Yosef's alive. Vatechi Ruach Yisrael. The spirit of Yisrael came to life. We all have our Yaakov Yisrael. We all have our dips and our rises, dips and rises. That's what life is made up of. The difficult times and the good times, the challenges, the conquests, the stumbles, and the getting back up onto our feet. Sheva Yipol Tzaddik V'kam, 7 times the Tzaddik falls and gets up. It's not that even though he fell 7 times, he gets up, he's a tzaddik. It's because of the fall and the getting up and the fall and the getting up and the fall and the getting up. It's because of the Chafetz Chaim having spoken Lashon Hara. That's what enabled him to become the Chafetz Chaim. So we asked originally, we mentioned a little bit of discomfort. We said, Avram, yeah, Ish Chesed, for sure. Avram's all about Chesed. Our weddings are all manifestations, a nod to the Chesed of Avram. And Yitzchak, Gevura, Din, control, judgment. Absolutely. But Yaakov is a man of integrity. Yaakov is emet, is truth. Yaakov deceived. He deceived his father. He really was. He bought the Bechorah, the prophecy. We know, we've discussed all of those. But bottom line is, I am. Esav is your firstborn. Are you Esav? I am. Yeah. Like Yosef went through a transformation of bringing all the tales to his father to becoming a vault, Yaakov became an Ish Emes. Yaakov became an Ish Emes. There was deception. But then Yaakov came clean. He became an Ish Emes. Vayigash to his father, Vayigash to Esav. That same neck that had the deceiving claw, a hairy wool on it, became the neck that he stretched out to Esav. And the tears from the deception became tears of reconciliation. And the blessing, here's the blessing. God decides who gets the blessings. Kach na et birchati. So we don't look at, and it's interesting, at you look at, in the society today, right? Yeah, but when he was in high school, yeah, but when she was in college, fair enough, right? But now the person is in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Who are they now, right? Does our worst moment define us forever? I sure hope not. I've had some not such illustrious moments in my life. Hopefully our worst moments do not define us forever. So we asked, Yaakov is an Ish Emet, look what he did. Yes, look what he did, and look what he became. And it's interesting. Where do we learn out about Yaakov's integrity? Where do we have a clear indication? After he was tricked by Lavan and given Leah instead of Rachel, the agreement was wait 7 days, the Sheva Brachot, wait 7 days, and then I will give you Rachel after 7 days on the condition that you'll work another 7 years. Now, if I was duped and now I'm working another 7 years that I shouldn't have to be working because you swapped the wife on me, what would a person like me say? You're going to regret ever having me stay on the 7 years. Had you said, work 7 years, then I'll give you Rachel, okay, you tied my hands. I'm going to do a good job. But you're giving me Rachel now on the condition that I'll work another 7 years? Good luck. See you later. See you later. But the verse goes on to say that Yaakov worked Od Sheva Shanim Acherot, extra word. Another 7 years. Acherot, another 7 years, another. What do you mean? To teach us that the second 7 years had the same integrity, the same dedication, the same honesty as the first 7 years. So yes, already at that point, Yaakov is going through that transformation. But it's not complete until he reconciles with Esav. So yes, Yaakov is Ish Emet, a man of incredible truth and integrity. And you only become someone of incredible truth and integrity as Avram only became a person of true chesed when he was willing to put aside that chesed. That was his struggle by the Akedah. And Yaakov became the man of incredible integrity when he went through that deception and then turned it around. Kach na et birchati. Rabbi Sachs makes the same point, and kach na et birchati, of blessed memory. Take now my bracha. Take now my blessing. Yaakov is an ish emet. None of us want to be judged by our lowest moment. But when we could take that Yaakov moment and turn it into a Yisroel, when we take those down times and we could transform that into a launching pad. Now, if you want to jump, the only way to jump and reach any height is by bending your knees. You've got to go down before you can go up. Our sages call that Yerida Litzarech Aliyah. There needs to be a descent in order to then ascend. The only way to jump is you have to bend your knees. You have to go low, and then you can go high. That's it. Yaakov is an Ish Emet. And that is the moral and the morality that is taught to us. We stumble, and we get up. And we make amends. We reconcile. Yes, Cheryl.
So why was it necessary for him to go through this thing with Yosef? I mean, how many years of grief was that? 22?
Yeah.
Didn't he
Yeah.
earn not having to go through that?
The Yosef saga, the sages compare to, he was away from his parents for 22 years, not fulfilling the mitzvah of kibbud av v'em. Yosef was away from him. Well, it's a good point, Cheryl. And there also is a concept that we'll discuss of we want everything to be settled here in this world. All of the missteps, we want them to be settled here in this world in that way, but when we move on to our eternity, that we've got this clean slate to go. But we will discuss that. We'll come to Yosef and all that's going on with Yosef. Okay, my friends, we will call it over here. Kathy, you'll stay on? You have time? Yeah, okay. Very good, everybody. Shavua Tov, everybody. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov, bye-bye.
Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov.
Thank you.
Kathy, I'll be back in just one moment, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
I
you
want
trying
to
to get out?
close. I want to leave and don't know. It doesn't
At the bottom of your screen, you might have a button that says leave,
button. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Now it came. Oh,
letting you out.
You know what?
it came and disappeared.
Kathy,
Yeah? You want to
let's
get
log
out?
back in.
I want to leave.
I'm going
Okay.
to close and then we'll log back in, Kathy.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Uh,
Nice seeing you, Rosa.
nice to see you. Thank you.
Okay.